Hi there, this is Brent from PathandTarot. I'm your webmaster, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use a regular 78 card tarot deck to play the game Beat the Devil and have the game rules help acquire you cards to do a reading with. To give your fortune at the end for the question you ask. So Beat the Devil is basically just a card game. It's used for 52 cards. You have 8 piles to work with, and within those 8 piles, you're just matching cards. You have to use up the whole deck to beat the devil. If you don't use up the whole deck, you lose. You don't beat the devil. How it works, to give you a quick recap of the rules, you take your deck of cards, draw out one card, make one pile, and draw out the next card to make the second pile. If those cards match, you draw a card on top of each of the matches. So you just draw 2 cards, one for each pile. If those cards match, you would draw more cards. If they don't, draw another card to make your third pile, and you just keep playing the game, drawing cards into piles up to 8, and just finding matches. It's quite a difficult game to play with just 8 piles, and you're actually going to find that you'll lose most of the time. But it's actually a really great game to play by yourself if you've got a little bit of time. It's can help you with developing shuffle techniques because you're going to shuffle the cards quite a bit, and also helps with visual acuity. You're matching cards, so you're scanning each card for a match. So it's kind of interesting that way. And how we've developed the rules to change for the use of a tarot deck is pretty straightforward. They're mostly the same with the addition of a few things. Um, how we match the cards is the minor arcana. They match just as they would with anything else. You're just matching the number value or the pip value. Aces to aces, tens to tens, fives to fives, all that. The suits don't matter. You don't have to worry about the pentacles, wands, swords, or cups. You just match the value, and that goes for the face cards too, the court cards. In this case, the Wild Unknown deck by Kim Kranz uses son, daughter, mother, father for the naming of the court cards. So you just match those. Other decks, have page, knight, queen, king. So if you're using other decks, you just match them like that. The major arcana are all considered matches, so from the Fool up to the World, you match those cards. If you're using a French tarot deck, like I've described in some previous articles, the Fool is actually a wild card. It can match with any other card in play. That's not the case here when you use a tarot deck for this specific reading. All the major arcanas are a match, so you would just play that way. You'll find that you're going to get more opportunities to match more than 2 cards, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. Right now in the video, we've got the Hanged Man, the Star, and Justice in play. So they would be a match of 3, and we can hold on to that match and sort of play out the other cards and match other cards. But the rule is we have to cover each pair before you open up a new pile. Right now we've got 12 piles, so we're not needing to open up a pile just yet. There's lots of opportunity. But if it was earlier in the game, you would have to cover all available matches before you open up a pile. So right now I've got 4 major arcana cards. If we were playing for points, how the point system works, those would be called devil points, by the way. A match of 3 is 1 point, and then every match beyond the first 3 is an additional point. So 4 matches is 2 points if you use the rules like that. And so you just cover the cards like I'm doing in the video to get your new cards. Now, just a short kind of side note, as you're placing the cards, you'll see potentially other matches appear. You have to cover all those cards before you start to play with other matches. That's just kind of a side note. Um, and so in this case, you're not collecting points, you're just playing out the cards. So you don't have to worry about how many points you're getting. But you do sort of have to strategically place the cards where you think you may want them, because at the end of this reading, what we're going to do is use the pile with the most cards to do our reading. So instead of a point system like I've described in other games and methods, this is a little different. So you sort of have to think more strategically as to where the cards get placed. And that's kind of the nice part about this reading is it's going to mix a lot of your own personal intuition for the question you're asking, and then sort of playing against the indeterminacy of the cards and the chance value of it. You're not exactly in control of the order of the cards, but you have control of where you place the cards strategically, because there can be more pairs open, more chances to match other cards. You get to kind of manipulate where these cards fall. And so that can be kind of fun. It can be interesting, and you can get some interesting results at the end, because you're going to read with the pile with the most cards. So maybe you're thinking in the back of your mind, oh, I'm going to place this card here, because you can actually start to see which piles stack up the highest. These cards are rather thick, so it's actually easier to see which pile can have the most cards. So that's kind of the strategy behind how this type of reading works. If you were playing with a French tarot deck and a companion deck to count your points, you sort of want to put emphasis on collecting your trump points with the trump cards, and that can be sort of played differently. But for this, you want to sort of have some strategy as you kind of get to the end of where you're using up all the cards. You sort of want to think a little bit of ahead as to where those final cards are going to be placed. Because again, like I said, you're gonna be reading from the pile with the most cards. So maybe your intuition is saying, oh, I should place these cards here for whatever reason. Maybe it's a card that you don't resonate with, or it's a card maybe that you do want to have in the pile that you're gonna read from. So those are kind of neat little side benefits that happen during this reading, and I think it's kind of interesting because you also get to see all the cards in action. So you're reading through literally the whole deck as you play this, and I think that's kind of a cool thing because it gives you a chance to see all the cards, how they interact with all the other cards, and how that can maybe influence the final reading. So right now I'm just counting each pile to see where the most cards are. I'm just flipping over the piles that don't have a lot of cards just so that I know for myself that I'm not going to read from those decks, or sorry, those piles. But I mean, there's no rule for that. You can do it any other way you want. I'm just doing that in this reading to help find the pile here. So I'm just counting the cards to see. If you have a pile that has the same amount of cards, choose the pile that has the most major arcana cards. If they have the same amount of major arcana, choose the one that came first in the reading through the game. And if you don't remember, then just intuitively choose which one you want to read with. You'll gravitate towards one pile or another. Just choose that one and read it. So right now I'm just counting and making sure that I've found the pile with the most cards. We're actually going to read from this last pile I'm holding right here. It has 11 cards. So I'm just going to count that. And there we go. I think I found it. And so I go back to that other pile just to make sure I know that it doesn't have more cards than 11. And then what we're going to do here in a second is just clear the table and the reading space. Yeah, so I definitely don't have 11 cards there, so I'm just going to clear the table. And I'm going to lay these cards out in the way they appeared on the pile, so in order. And I'm going to have them go left to right. And then you're going to read them in that order to have your devil's path. That's what we're going to call it. So each point you get is a devil's point, and then all those points make your devil's path, and that's going to give you your sort of A to B to C, I guess A to Z, step by step to your answer that you're asking the deck. And each card represents sort of maybe hidden elements, things to overcome, things that you don't know about, potential occurrences that are going to happen to get you to your answer. So you're just going to apply, whatever reading method you have for the cards. You can consult the guidebook that comes with your deck to understand the meaning a little bit more. Some decks have reversals, like a Rider-Waite-Smith deck has reversals. You can consider that when you're using a deck like that. The Wild Unknown by Kim Krans doesn't have written reversals, so you can use your intuition a little bit more, which is fun. But in this case, you read left to right to get your answer, and you can apply simple methods like when you look at the card, what's the first thing that comes to mind, and do that for the card next to it, and then combine the two to sort of bridge to create an answer for yourself, and then just keep going left to right to sort of get you through that devil's path to give you your final answer. And then that's pretty much it. You would read it that way, and then collect up the cards. And if you want to play around with them in other ways, you can. This is just a way to have pre-selected certain cards for a reading to play around with, and this will give you a way to do reading for yourself.